So, confession time. I've never read Bleach. To be more precise, I've never actually read a single chapter of Bleach. I skimmed through a few volumes at the bookstore, and I think I watched half an episode a long time ago, and that pretty much sums up my entire Bleach experience. I am, however, a fan of Tite Kubo's art. I've seen tons of videos of him drawing his characters, and I even used to have some of his art as my desktop wallpaper at one point. I skimmed through his art books, and I just really like his art. Other than that though, I essentially know nothing of Bleach. I know the protagonist is called Ichigo, he's a Reaper, or whatever. Oh, and I think the word hollow is important. Hollow Ichigo! Woo. So the reason I mention this is because I just read Burn the Witch, the first volume, and it takes place in the same universe as Bleach. I'll say this right off the bat. It was a positive experience. Doesn't make me want to read Bleach, but it does make me want to continue reading this series, at least the next volume. There are some things about it I didn't like, and I am aware that my complete lack of Bleach knowledge may have led to some of those. Regardless, let's talk about Burn the Witch. But before we get started though, I'd like to welcome you to MangAnalysis, where I do little reviews of the manga I've been reading. If you like what you see and would like to see more, make sure to subscribe and leave a like. Maybe even leave a comment. Let's get a conversation going. So essentially, Burn the Witch focuses on two witches working at the Dragon Management Agency, Windbind, operating in reverse London, which is sort of like London, but in another parallel dimension, I guess. Anyway, the important thing to note here is that dragons aren't really dragons as you and I understand them. Dragons is more of an umbrella term that encapsulates all creatures that aren't natural, like fairies or monsters. Some dragons are tamed and used for their resources, and some are hunted in order to prevent them from causing harm to humans. The two witches I mentioned are Noelle and Ninny. Noelle is calm, aloof, and has black hair, while the other, Ninny, is a high-energy loose cannon with blonde hair. Yeah, I know. Burn the Witch follows these two witches as they hunt dragons and sort of learn to tame one and maybe uncover a secret group of mythical legendary dragons that could end the world. Maybe? I don't know, haven't gotten that far yet. So the first thing I really enjoyed about this series are the main protagonists, Noelle and Ninny. They gave me real Naruto Sasuke vibes, except where Sasuke isn't some vengeful, angsty sociopath and Naruto isn't dumb and knows what's going on. It's interesting because the book throws us into their already established partnership. I often find in stories like these, the two main protagonists get introduced to each other in the first or second chapter, then you sort of have to deal with a dozen chapters of them learning how to be a team or whatever. But in this case, they already have a relationship. The fun thing is figuring out how they jive together, and through their dialogue, you get to know more about the two of them. Burn the Witch has tons of exposition, we'll talk about that later, but I'm really happy to say that none of it applies to the characters. You get to know them by what they do and how they talk to one another, which is really neat. Ninny is the singer for some pop band, and things went awry with the group right before the story starts. We don't actually really find this out in one big speech bubble, but rather you'll get little morsels here and there along the way. She comes off as this angry, bossy, high-energy girl, but you can see her being real quiet and somber and rather mysterious, which I find really fun. As for Noelle, not much has been hinted as far as her backstory goes, but she's still really interesting. She's the straight shooter of the two, always rational and calm, but provides ton of dry humor and witty comments. These girls are great on their own, but it's when they're paired that they're at their best. Typically that can be good or bad. Having a character entirely depend on another to be interesting or even just likable can really be detrimental to a good story. But I think Ninny and Noelle are great on their own, but their dynamic really shines when they're playing off one another. The next thing I enjoyed was the setting. I don't really know much about Bleach's lore. I don't know how much of this is even in Bleach, like reverse London and witches, or reverse dimensions and dragons and whatnot. But whatever this is, it's really fascinating. I love the concept of witches hunting dragons, or using some weird wand guns to shoot their spells like Goku shoots a Kamehameha. And then some witches have their own dragons as familiars. It's all just really cool. The fact that it's based in London really does remind me of Harry Potter. The witches and humans in this story really seem to be inspired by wizards and muggles. I am a tad concerned that all this stuff I'm really enjoying from Burn the Witch is already super known and established in Bleach, which would give the author little incentive to continue developing it here. I'd love to know more about this world and the system and government that the witches operate under, and their wands and their powers and etc., without having to read hours on the wiki or having to read a 74 book long series. Yes, I can't bake a pie and eat it too, or whatever the saying is. So there are a few things I didn't like about Burn the Witch. I'll start with the one that doesn't really concern my lack of Bleach knowledge. The character Balgo sucks. I really didn't like him. So he's a totally normal human, except he's a lecherous creep who's always trying to get a peek at Noelle's knickers. And then somehow, due to proximity to a dragon, becomes a dragon-clad, which means he's sort of half-dragon or something. I don't know, it wasn't super clear. Anyway, he becomes plot relevant because Ninny and Noelle have to watch over him. Balgo isn't just a creepy perv though. He's the dumb, always joyful, oblivious type of creepo perv, who has speeches about friendship and all that garbage. Like, he doesn't do anything other than get in trouble and then needing to be saved by the girls. That's how the plot moves, pretty much. Balgo does something stupid, Noelle and Ninny save him, there's a fight, he stands there looking confused and does nothing, etc, etc, etc. I just can't stand that type of character, especially not when I'm supposed to like him. Only by the end of chapter 4 is it hinted that there may be more to his character / backstory, but that just means he's going to most likely become more important to the plot, and I'm not looking forward to it. He's probably going to become the Naruto trope and train hard and become the best dragon-clad witch knight warrior that Reverse London has ever seen. I can't wait. So the next thing I didn't like was the exposition, or lack of. For this part, I have a feeling that my lack of Bleach knowledge probably didn't help, but still some stuff I felt wasn't explained super well, and some other things were explained in too much detail way too many times. Burn the Witch has this weird tendency to have lore dumps and giant scenes full of expositions of things the reader's already aware of. For example, tons of exposition was given for the dragons and their usage, which is neat, but then it doesn't stop, and it's the same information. But then other things like how dragons came to be, or the relationship between witches and humans, or the real world and its reverse counterparts, which I feel are also important, don't really have tons of explanation. I know, maybe that's something I would be aware of if I had read Bleach, but I'm certain that even Bleach fans, or non-Bleach fans, would have preferred to get a throwaway line from one of the characters explaining the relationship between witches and normal people over being told about how dragons can make wool for the 4th time. So yeah, overall the ratio of information I needed to know and information I wanted to know felt off, and I'm left a little bit disappointed. Finally, the pacing. The pacing wasn't the best. This is not a huge problem, however, since this is actually something that happens with a lot of manga series. You have a great first chapter, and then the second chapter is a little lacking, a little confused. It's trying to find itself. And Burn the Witch had that for me. Chapter 2 and 3 seemed almost like Kubo didn't really know where he was going with the story, and then found it in chapter 4. Chapter 4 was really good and really made me want to continue the story. Since this happens a lot in manga, I feel like I'm being nitpicky, but I wanted to mention it in case other people started this series and then felt let down by the second chapter. It gets better, friends. So, should you check it out? As someone who's never read Bleach and has no intention to do so, but who enjoyed Burn the Witch nonetheless, I would say yes, check it out. It's nothing you haven't read before. I feel like I've read stories similar to this one, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It feels familiar, it feels comforting. The important thing is that for the most part, everything is done really well. You can tell that this author has experience, and it shows. The art is top notch, the dialogue is superb, most of the characters are interesting and pique my curiosity. Fucking Balgo. And the fight scenes are super cool. I've never seen wands quite like the ones in Burn the Witch, and I'm hoping we get to see more of how they work and how the magic system operates. So if you read and enjoyed Bleach, I feel like this is a no-brainer, but even if you haven't read Bleach and you just enjoy action-packed stories with a good side of laughs, then this should definitely be something you check out. At the very least, read the first chapter. I know it hooked me enough to make me want to continue, and hey, maybe it'll have that effect on you too. Well, that was Burn the Witch. I hope you enjoyed this little review, and if you did indeed enjoy it, consider subscribing. This was MangAnalysis, and I'll see you in the next one.